we witnessed a most violent and terrible thunderstorm.
It came from behind the mountain, and the thunder burst at once, with dreadful power from various parts of the heavens.
I remained, my stone austin, watching your curiosity and delight.
As I stood, I saw a stream of fire issue from an old and beautiful oak which stood 20 yards from our house.
When the dazzling light vanished, the oak had disappeared, and nothing remained but a blasted stump.
When we visited the next morning, we found the tree shattered in a remarkable manner. It was not splintered by the shock. Tiny weeds used to thin ribbons.
I never beheld anything so utterly destroyed.
That's a shame. I was looking forward to this. For a story like this, it's hard to know where to begin.
Well, if you were trying to tell this tale to someone who didn't know it.
Well, that's the thing. It's a tale we all know.
But do we?
Good point.
Do we really? It's a boy's own events of murder and mayhem.
No. It's a feminist exploration of science, philosophy, and toxic masculinity.
Really?
Mary Wollstonecraft was a brilliant and inquisitive mind, decades ahead of her time, maybe centuries. She's the first feminist, and William Godwin was an amazing man.
And they married, and they had
A daughter.
Mary, born to be extraordinary, bound to leave her mark on our imaginations.
With her boys on adventure, featuring a monster.
Let's say creature.
Good point.
I like monster.
of course you do.
And Mary, born from two extraordinary people, finds love with another of the finest minds of the period, Percy Shelley. There's so much to say. They were penniless. Their first child died in Mary's arms.
She fell into a depression. They found themselves staying with the poet Byron on Lake Geneva in May 1816, the strangest of years.
They call it a year without a summer. There was a volcanic eruption. Parts of the globe had red snow, and the skies were dark from the spring to the autumn.
And amongst all this,
Finally,
Byron suggests they each write a ghost story. Now, where are Percy Shelley's and Byron's? No one knows, but Mary's.
This poor boy is only 17 when his mother died just before he goes to university. No wonder he wants to be the master over death. He's still grieving for his mother,
Who dies surrounded by a loving family.
Victor, Elizabeth, perhaps of future happiness, what the prospects of your marriage? This would be the comfort of your father, Elizabeth, my love. Our regret was I am taken from you. It is so hard to leave you all, but these are not written thoughts. I will try and resign myself cheerfully to death, and will die in time
daddies will make a life together.
The carriage is waiting, son. Go with our blessing and do wonderful things.
Do not forget us.
He won't forget us.
Stay safe and write often.
Make us proud.
Of course he will.
I love you.
Make a mark on the world.
Make my mark. Yes, somehow. I'll make sure the world learns your name, Father. Somehow. Ingolstadt! Hundreds of miles from home, and all knowledge at my fingertips. What a time I shall have!
The ancient teachers of this science promised us miracles, but succeeded in nothing. The modern masters promise very little. Their hands seem only made to dabble in dirt, and their eyes to pore over the microscope or crucible. But it is they who have indeed performed miracles.
The punishment is the death of nature, and so she how she works in a hundred places. They ascend into the heavens, and we discover how the blood circulates, and the ocean moves.
None but those who have experienced them can imagine the possibilities of science. In other studies, we go as far as others have gone before us, and there's nothing more to know. But in scientific pursuit, there is always continual food for discovery and wonder.
The world is to me a secret, which I desire to divine. The secrets of heaven and earth, the physical secrets of the world were mine to discover. I had a passionate longing to penetrate the secrets of nature, for what glory would attend the discovery if I could banish disease from the human frame and render man invulnerable to any but a violent death.
Say past the first year, then into a second, with a single-mindedness bordering on obsession.
Where did the principle of life proceed? How to halt the decay and corruption of the human body. The churchyard and charnel house will provide my materials. I saw how the fine vomit man was degraded and wasted. I saw the corruption of death succeed. To the blooming cheek of life, I saw how the worm inherited the wonders of the eye and brain.
After days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, he himself had discovered in causing generation of life, and he became capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter.
I thought that if I could give life to lifeless flesh, that I might, in process of time, renew life where death had apparently devoted the body to corruption.
He did indeed pursue nature to our hiding places, the dissecting room, offering up the scarcity supplies.
A new species would bless me and its creator. Many happy and excellent natures would owe its being to me.
Winter, spring, and summer passed away during his labors, but he did not watch the blossom or the expanding leaves, sights which had before always given him supreme delight. So deeply was he engrossed in his occupation.
The leaves of that year had withered before my work drew near to a close. Great God!
He had worked hard for nearly 2 years.
For this I had deprived myself of rest and health.
Now that he had finished, the beauty of a dream vanished.
Gone in an instant.
Horror, disgust, filled his heart.
He was
unable to endure the image of the being he had created.
It all goes back to this moment. What does it say? I threw myself on the bed in my clothes. I slept, but I was disturbed by the wildest dreams. I thought I saw Elizabeth in the bloom of health. Delighted and surprised, I embraced her, but as I placed the first kiss on her lips, they became the colour of death. Her features changed, and I thought I held the corpse of my dead mother in my arms. I saw the grave worms crawling in the folds of the funeral clothes.
By the dim and yellow light of the moon, I saw the wretch, the miserable monster I had created. He held up the curtains of the bed, and his eyes were fixed on me. His jaws opened, and he muttered just sounds, while a grin wrinkled his cheeks, and a hand stretched out to me, but I escaped and rushed downstairs.
That's quite a mess of the set, isn't it? Oh, you run away, I'll follow you. You run away again. Not a great start in life.
Not all monsters' acts are carried out by what appears to be monsters.
They say it takes a village to raise a soiled, but perhaps it only takes one man to destroy another.
I guess it wasn't the dying that made him angry. It was more the dragging him back.
Death is a natural part of the process, but being reborn...
A child again, a blank slate.
Tabula rasa.
So he's as confused and selfish and angry and needy as any soils.
Big and strong, very strong.
Only things you need to add on father's issues.
There's no mother figure to guide and nurture.
Then throw in some abandonment, rejection and neglect.
And things can get very dark very quickly. And who was he before?
Son, brother, father. No one ever asks. Maybe no one cares.
He's made from parts. Some parts may be older than others.
Some bits might be female.
That never occurred to me. Wow, that really would mess with your head.
Can we get back to the story?
So desperate, panicked, exhausted, and almost delirious, he runs into the heart of the city as dawn is breaking.
And then, as good luck with her.
Victor! This can't be! But it is, my friend, it is. Just off the early coach. And here to be a student just like my oldest friend. And I am here to visit as your family have been so worried about you.
Are they well? Father, Elizabeth, and Miss Little William?
They are worried, and with good reason, Victor. Look at you. What shape is this you are in? Have you been ill?
Ill? Me ill?
Let's get you back home.
Home? But...
Home, Victor. How I would love to see how you have been living, and what you have been working on.
Home. Not safe. Do not enter. Please, Henry.
Good Lord, Victor. You head into the city and leave your door wide open? What a trusting fellow you are.
Do not enter.
Whatever are you hiding? Oh dear, Victor. This place might need a good tidy, but it is charming. I thought for a moment you might be hiding someone, but I see that it is utterly empty.
Empty?
Not a soul.
Not a soul?
Then, all at once,
There's no air.
I'm sweaty.
gasping for breath.
His head is spinning.
World is spinning.
The clouds, the skies.
Stars are spinning.
His pulse is racing. Unsteady and unstable.
Crying for help.
Vision swimming.
Real or figment? Yellow eyes, black lips.
His heart pounds.
Knees weak.
Shaking exhausted.
Then blackness and silence.
Then Victor's laid up in bed, and the creature's gone. We've lost a friend in the world.
I guess a lot of people who wrote it is to feel different.
What is it like to be looked at with suspicious eyes?
What does it feel like on the outside looking in?
It's not hard to understand how sadness can turn to anger.
And I can understand how anger can turn to rage.
Good point.
To live on the earth is to only have lived.
To be judged by how you appear, not by what is in your heart and your mind.
It's cruel, but is it unusual?
It's harsh, but isn't it utterly, sadly, normal?
The only one who doesn't judge him is the old man who cannot see him.
Do I do it? Probably.
Do we all ask yourself, do you?
Good point.
But I like to think maybe I'll buy him a coffee.
Maybe sometimes it's us on the inside, and we looked out at someone who is other.
Different, strange, not quite like us.
And can we always say we have been kind, open, charitable?
Have we looked with those same suspicious eyes which have looked at us?
With Henry at his side, Victor is nursed back to health.
His heart perhaps behind them.
And Henry, a student at Ingolstadt.
Effective communication with his family.
My dearest cousin, you have been ill, very ill, and even the letters of dear kind Henry are not enough to assure me on your account. Get well and return to us. You'll find a happy, cheerful home, and friends love you dearly. Your father's health is good, but he asked to see you, to know that you're well. But not a care will ever cloud his kindly face. How pleased to see Ernest, now 16 and waiting to join the military.
Little change, except the growth of your brothers, has taken place since you left us. The lake and mountains, they never change. And I think our quiet home and our glad hearts are controlled by the same natural laws.
I wish you could see William. He is very tall for his age, with sweet laughing blue eyes, dark eyelashes and curly hair. And when he smiles, two little dimples appear on each cheek, which are rosy with health.
I've written myself into better spirits, dear cousin, thanks to Henry for his kindness, his affection, and his many letters. We are sincerely grateful. Adieu, my cousin. Take care of yourself. A golden time it was. Henry the student, and I, nothing more than a friend, learning from him what he learned in his classes.
The seasons changed from winter to spring and summer to autumn and back to winter.
And on into a new year, winter, spring, and it was May that it happened.
After 2 weeks of walking in the countryside, we returned to our college on a Sunday afternoon. The peasants were dancing, and everyone we met appeared so happy. My own spirits were high, and I bowed along with feelings of unbridled joy and hilarity.
Unbridled joy? Hilarity!
Only because the truth was not yet known.
Victor, a letter here, and I think it is from your father.
Dear Victor, you have waited impatiently for a letter to fix your date of your return to us. And at first I was tempted to write only a few lines, nearly mentioning on the day I should expect you. But that would be a cruel kindness, and I dare not do it.
What would you expect, my son, when you expect a happy and glad welcome? On the contrary, tears and wretchedness. Huh?
Even now, your eye skims over the page to seek the words which are to convey to you the horrible tidings. William is dead! That sweet child, your brother whose smiles delighted and warmed my heart, who was so gentle yet so full of joy. Victor, he is murdered. I can offer you no consolation, my friend. Your disaster is beyond imagination. What do you intend to do?
I must go instantly to Geneva. Find me horses, Henry. For the first time in 6 years, I am going home.
For a start, we only forget what we know or what we think we know.
Images from the screen.
Bolts through the neck and lightning and throwing big switches. The story was never about that sudden spark of life.
It's alive! It's alive! That doesn't happen in the book. Victor's more like a biochemist.
He'd be working for Pfizer now or AstraZeneca. And he's 19 when he makes that thing. 19 and grieving for his mother. I mean, we all make mistakes at that age, but that's a pretty big one.
In the film, he's always middle-aged after decades of research.
I told you forget what we think we know.
I guess we know this about the creature. Its yellow skin barely covers the muscles and arteries beneath.
His hair is black and flowing.
His teeth were pearly white, but they only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes.
That seemed almost as the same colour as the dull white sockets in which they were set.
His shriveled complexion and straight black lips. Mary doesn't mention scars, not a word.
But in all those films, it was so much more shocking.
I'm not sure why all that was needed when the original story was shocking enough.
Creation from nothing, brought back from the other side.
Only to be abandoned, cast away by his creator, by them all.
Maybe if you are going to play at being God, you had better at least start by being a half-decent man.
He doesn't get much chance to be a man. What is he? In his mid-20s when he dies.
He dies. Oh, thanks for the spoiler.
To make a mess, walk away. That's asking for trouble.
Monstrous, tinkering with nature, as if nature wasn't wonderful enough.
After all, nature can already create without a father.
There's a word for it. Parthenogenesis. Birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, they all use it.
But making life without a mother?
What nonsense. There's no word for that.
It was on Victor's journey home that it happened.
Days of travelling, encountered, and on horseback, exhausted with wisdom
when I'm so close to home. But I can see again my old friends. The lake, the hills, moonlit sky. There is a storm coming.
And climbing to the highest point is tied everybody can manage, and hearing the wind upon the witherlands!
William, dear brother! This is your funeral! This lament! I see it all now. It was my hands that brought the murderer to life.
He had turned loose into the world a depraved wretch, whose delight was in carnage and misery. His hands had made the hands that murdered his brother.
And spirit he himself had let loose from the grave, destined to destroy all that was dear to him.
He's a thing made of parts, part nature, part nurture.
Good point.
But the creature had no nature.
No nurture.
A poor start for sure. Look at your own self. Your hands, your eyes, all parts. I have my mother's nose.
I've got my father's hair.
Grandad's jawline.
Auntie Anne's forehead.
Granny's thighs. More's the pity.
We're all a thing made from parts. That's the nature bit. But the nurture, that's what makes us us, isn't it?
How we deal with the world, our values. We aren't created with them. We're big empty space with everything poured into.
That's the stuff we get from everyone who helps us grow up, but no one helped the creature. He's a big empty space that no one poured anything into.
He doesn't know right from wrong, or even light from dark. To start with, poor thing, he needs a name, really.
He calls himself Adam. What he sort of does, he says, remember that I am a creature. I ought to be your Adam, but I am instead the fallen angel, who you drive from joy for no misdeed.
Adam. He's not so scary if we call him Adam. He's the first of his kind, like Bible Adam. But he was the last too, alone from beginning to end.
I think that will make me angry.
This creature isn't taught how to give or receive love. He's just abandoned to the world. Maybe the terrible things he does is him saying is, you do this to me, I'll do that to you.
Good point.
Not until dawn did Victor find himself once again at home, a house of sadness and mourning.
Wish you had come before, then you could have found us joyous and delighted. Come to us now, share misery, which nothing can ease.
Poor William, here's our darling and our boy.
Our only relief is that the murderer is discovered.
It is beyond belief, Victor.
The murderer discovered? How can that be? It is impossible. I saw him too. He was free last night.
Your fatigue and your greed makes you speak nonsense, son.
It is Justine, the housemaid. He has been discovered as the murderer.
Justine. She is the best of people. Kind, patient. She loved William. No, she is not. I know that this cannot be.
I believe that to be the case too.
But
William disappeared in the woods.
I was out searching for William just as everyone else was. I spent the night wandering the woods, calling and calling.
They found a portrait of your mother, a portrait that had been around William's poor neck.
This I cannot explain. At dawn I was so tired, so worried and so far from home that I lay down on some straw in a barn and slept. I had some idea that a figure came in, perhaps a man or an animal, I cannot say. But when the portrait was discovered in my pocket, I was as shocked as anyone.
She confessed.
I confessed because I wanted absolution, forgiveness. It was a mistake. I loved William as I would a brother. I would give up my life to bring his back.
The portrait was surely placed there by the hand of the killer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
But whose dicta? Whose hand?
A stranger. A monstrous stranger. It is true, I know it. I will tell the court my fears. Justine will not hang for a crime which is not hers.
Thy kingdom come as it is done on earth and on heaven.
The time has passed, Victor. She's at rest now.
Give us this day our daily bread.
She was to die at daybreak.
Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Justine is with her God.
With William.
Lead us not into temptation, but
Deliver us from evil.
Imagine having no words, no language, opening your mouth, and what comes out? Just noise.
To be thought of as a fool, or worse, a danger.
Yeah, like waking up in a new country where they speak the tongue you have never heard.
What kind of frustration would that create?
Imagine how you could be misunderstood.
What would be left? Gestures, pointing, speaking loudly, and slowly, shouting when someone doesn't get it.
All these things the British are so good at.
You see it through the eyes, wouldn't you?
Pity, fear, ridicule.
And those looks never help anyone communicate more clearly. They just make you panic.
It would be terrifying not knowing anything, not understanding anything except the knowledge that everyone hates you, and you don't know why. You can't even ask why.
In the bosom of his family, Victor finds no comfort. They grieve. He knows the truth. He knows that the death of William and Justine are not an end, but a beginning. He knows his hands were the instruments of the destruction, and his hands must end the terror.
No, without so peace in the mountains and the lakes.
But there in Yemen, they meet again.
Devil, do you dare approach me? Do you not fear my vengeance on your miserable head? Be gone, or stay, so that I may trample you to dust. With your death, if I could only bring back those victims whom you have murdered!
I expected this the exception. All men hate the wretched, and I must be hated above all, because I am more miserable than any other. You, my creator, you propose to kill me. How dare you sport in that way with life? Do your duty towards me, and I will do mine towards you and the rest of mankind. If you comply with my conditions, I will leave all mankind at peace. But if you refuse, I will have my fill of death with the blood of all those you hold dear.
You blame me for your creation? Come on then, so I may smother the fire which so carelessly lit.
Be calm and hear me before you spill your hatred on my devoted head. My life may be nothing but anguish, but it is dear to me, and I will defend it. You made me more powerful than you. My height is superior, my joints more supple, but I will not be tempted to set myself against you. I am your creature, and I will be obedient to my natural Lord and King. If you will also perform your part, which you owe me, I should have been your Adam, but instead I am the fallen angel who you drive from joy for no reason. Everywhere I see happiness, which I am excluded from. I was kind and good. Misery made me a fiend. Make me happy, and I shall again be virtuous.
Man, this bit goes on like 18,000 words and like 26 pages of it.
There's a lot to tell.
You're not kidding. What does Victor say? His whole tale had occupied the whole day, and Jason was on the verge of the horizon when he departed.
It's the heart of the book. We get his first impressions.
It is with such difficulty that I remember the first era of my being. The events of that period are confused and indistinct. A strange array of sensations seized me, and I saw, felt, heard, and smelt at the same time. A stronger light pressed upon my nerves, so that I was obliged to shut my eyes. Darkness then came over and troubled me, but hardly had I felt this when, by opening my eyes, the light poured in me again.
This is the first day of life. He doesn't know what he is, where he is. He's lost.
My eyes became accustomed to the light and to perceive objects in their right forms. I distinguished the insect from the herb, and by degrees one herb from another. I found that the sparrow uttered harsh notes, whilst those of the blackbird and the thrush were sweet and enticing.
He has to steal his food to start with. First berries and roots in the forest, then he learns about people and villages and food in gardens.
How miraculous did this appear! The huts, the neater cottages, and blended houses, the vegetables in the gardens, the milk and cheese that I saw placed at the windows. I entered a house, but I had hardly placed my foot within the door before the children shrieked, and one of the women fainted. The whole village was roused. Some fled Some attacked him until badly bruised by stones and many other kinds of weapons. I escaped to the open country and fearfully took refuge in a low hole quite above making a wretched appearance after the palaces I had beheld in the village.
The De Lacys, the old man and his children, and a mysterious woman who conveniently needs to learn English. And we're supposed to believe that he learns to speak by listening to them.
And suddenly he can read because he found 3 books.
I think we have to buy into this part of the story. This is his nurture. What has made him, him.
Finally gives us someone who doesn't judge him what he looks like.
He watches, he learns, he gathers wood for them and leaves it at their door. He's doing nothing but good things, kind things.
Pardon this intrusion. I am a traveller in need of a little rest. You would help me greatly if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire.
Enter, and I will try in what manner I can to meet your needs. Unfortunately, my children are not home, but I will find food for you.
Do not trouble yourself, my kind host. It is warmth and rest that I need.
By your language, stranger, I would say that you are a countryman of mine.
No, but I learned speech from a family much like yours. I am now hoping to claim the protection of some kind people. I am an unfortunate creature. I have no friend upon earth. These people I am speaking of have never seen me and know little of me. I am full of fears, for if I fail, I am an outcast in the world forever.
To be friends is to be unfortunate, but the hearts of men can be full of brotherly love and charity. If these people are good and kind, do not despair.
They are kind, but they may take against me. I am kind, and my life has been harmless, but a fatal prejudice may cloud their eyes, and where they ought to see a friend, they see only a monster.
That is indeed unfortunate. But if you really are blameless, perhaps you can convince them.
I will try. For many months I have been in the habit of a daily kindness towards them, but they know nothing of.
Where do these friends reside?
Close by. Suddenly I feel such overwhelming terrors.
Friend, tell me your tale. I can be of help convincing these people of your kindness. I cannot judge by appearance, but your words persuade me that you are sincere.
I thank you and accept your generous offer. You raised me from the dust of your kindness, and I hope that with your help...
Here come my children. They will help you.
Now is the time. Save and protect me. You and your family are the friends whom I seek. Do not desert me in the hour of trial.
Wait, God, who are you?
It is too much to hope that those who see him can ever see past what is before them. They will not see beneath.
I think of him like a tree with shallow roots. Well, no roots at all, really.
What are you saying? A tree?
Word. How is he a tree?
Okay, imagine the choices you make. The things you decide about in life. Those things. You might make them one way or another, depending on the moral code you have been given.
Okay.
That's nurture, isn't it?
Or you might think, if I do this bad thing, then what will the people I care about think of me?
So that's like, what if my mum found out?
Exactly, or your dad, brother, sister, friends. And that's your roots right there.
And this creature, he hasn't got any.
His face with a choice. He sometimes makes a good one, sometimes a terrible one.
There's nothing rooting him to anyone or anything.
If I was a tree, I'd be a mighty oak. That's me.
Good point. Deep roots, I guess.
That's an interesting choice. Quite a masculine choice, if you don't mind me saying.
Why would I mind? Oak's roots, solid. That's me.
Solid, yes, or inflexible.
Strong.
But if a storm is strong enough, it'll bring that oak down, because it stands against it. It breaks because it can't bend.
Who wants to bend?
The trees that want to survive, they bend so they don't break.
That's resilience.
That's weathering the storm. Bend, don't break.
Why are we talking about trees?
We are not, we are talking about people.
Are we?
Can we get back to the story?
And on he talks as if all the talking in him had been waiting for this moment, this day, this meeting, all the thinking and planning and revealing out it pours about William.
He struggled violently. Let me go, he cried. Monster, ugly wretch, you wish to tear me to pieces. Let me go, or I will tell my father, Mr. Frankenstein. You are a Frankenstein, I said. You will never see your father again. You are brother to my enemy, him to whom I have sworn eternal revenge. You shall be my first victim. The child struggled and threw words at me which made her heart despair. I grasped his throat to silence him, and in a moment he lay dead at my feet. As I fixed my eyes on the boy, I saw something glittering at his throat. I took it. It was a portrait of a most lovely woman. I left the spot where I had committed the murder, and I entered a secluded barn. A young woman was asleep on some straw. I had learned now to work mischief. I bent over her and placed the portrait in one of the folds of her dress. She moved and I fled.
And about his future.
We cannot part until you have promised to comply with my request. I am alone and miserable, but one like myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. You must create a female for me with whom I can live. Only you can do this, and I demand it of you as a right. it is true. We shall be monsters cut off from all the world. But because we shall be closer to one another, our lives will not be happy, but they will be harmless and free from the misery that I now feel. We will live in the most savage of places where no people dwell. My evil will have fled, for I shall have a sympathy. My life will flow quietly away, and in my dying moments I shall not curse you, my maker. I am malicious because I am miserable. My Creator, make me happy. Do not deny me my request.
Liddell!
The bargain! The contract!
I consent. I shall deliver into your hands a female who will accompany you in your exile on your solemn oath.
I swear by the sun and by the blue sky of heaven that if you grant my prayer, you will never see me again. Depart to your home and begin your work. I shall watch your progress.
If I'm honest, before I read the book, the guy thought it was just...
But actually, he's really thoughtful.
And he's articulate. He's read Paradise Lost and all those other books. And there's this whole chunk where he just wants what everyone else seems to have.
A family life?
Someone to share his life with at least.
That doesn't seem like too much to ask.
Mary and Shelley made it seem like a really simple thing to ask for. A partner, a mate.
But then Victor thinks it might be the beginning of some murderous race.
You can see why he destroys the second creature.
Do you think he would have kept his word, the creature, and just gone off to live away from people?
He might, but the woman creature never got a chance to say that she would live peacefully.
She wouldn't have been so alone though. Right from the start, she'd have had him.
What if she didn't fancy him?
You are so shallow.
You wouldn't want to be shacked up forever with someone you didn't fancy though. Shallow or not, it's true.
He's got a nice personality. He's a good person.
That's what everyone says about ugly people, isn't it? I'm just saying.
Can a second mistake cure a first?
Victor returns home, but finds 100 reasons not to start his new project.
What if the creature is lying?
She might refuse to comply with the contract made before her creation.
What if a new creature is more evil yet?
They might hate each other. She might turn away with disgust and he would be again alone.
And then there is the unthinkable, which he must think of, cannot stop thinking of.
Even if they were to leave Europe and inhabit the new deserts, the deserts of the new world, one of the first results of this sympathy the demon seeks would be children, and a race of devils would be spread upon the earth. Have I the right?
Have he the right?
Have I the right?
But the deal, is it not? And a second creature, a female creature, cannot be constructed at home.
So, a journey with Henry is planned.
The two friends visiting Transburg, Rotterdam, England.
Where we were to part, as I had need to visit Ireland, and my friend would journey on to Scotland, where he had business he could not tell me of. We parted in Perth.
My friend, I I wish to make a tour of Scotland alone. Let this be our rendezvous. I may be absent for a month or two, but leave me for a short time. And when I return, I hope it be a more lighter heart, more congenial to your own happy mood.
And not to Scotland, he will be home. Home to his family, home to his fiancée, and home to plan a wedding.
But there's no tour for Victor. And Scotland, remote as it is, was not isolated, not even to the Orkneys, but there was flood of the islands. His work, too, resumed.
You abandon the work which you began. What is it that you intend? Do you dare to break your promise? I have endured toil and misery. I have endured fatigue and cold and hunger. Do you dare destroy my hopes?
I do break my promise. Never will I create another like you. You're equal in deformity and wickedness.
Slave, I reasoned with you, but you are unworthy of my trust. Remember that I have power. You believe yourself miserable, but I can make you so wretched that the light of day will be hateful to you. You are my creator, but I am your master. Obey.
Your threats cannot move me to do an act of wickedness. Be gone! I am present.
Shall each man find a wife to hold, and each beast have his mate, and I be alone. Are you to be happy while I am in despair? You, my tormentor, will curse the sun that gazes on your misery. Beware, for I am fearless and therefore powerful. You will repent of the injuries you inflict.
Devil! Cease! Leave me! I am decided.
I go, but think on this. I shall be with you on your wedding night.
I shall be with you.
On your wedding night!
But that wedding night is some way off. First, the pieces of the abandoned creature are to be discarded into the sea.
At this point, Victor finds no chance of return.
God to the door.
Lost on the way.
To die at sea? Surely not.
No, but to make landfall at a small harbour town far distant from the island he left.
I am.
You will know that soon enough.
Maybe you have come to a place that will not prove much to your taste.
I fear that you will not be much consulted as to where you rest your head tonight.
Why do you answer me so roughly?
Roughly, he says.
Surely it is not custom of Englishmen to receive strangers so inhospitably.
We do not know about nor care about the custom of the English.
But it is the custom of the Irish.
Islands?
To hate villains!
Villains?
And murderers.
Dear God!
Dear indeed. Now, you will follow me to give an account of your actions to the magistrate, who is looking into the death of a gentleman in the town last night.
A gentleman?
A foreigner. I forget his name.
Henry Clerval of Geneva, Switzerland, visiting Ireland merely to see its beauty and visit the people, of no harm to any soul. But the breath and life was squeezed from his throat in this foreign land by the hands of who?
Henry? My own Henry? This cannot be! 2 already destroyed, others await their destiny. But you, Clerval, my friend!
The earth moves, shakes below him.
The weight crushing him.
Pulling him down.
No air in his lungs. Faces are rising.
William is staring, blaming why? What brother would do this?
He asks in silence.
Destiny appears that aren't asked why.
Henry Sutherland, shocked. Why?
Flames. Toad is calling why?
Who's this clamor? Wanting a reason. Why?
Dying is death.
Leaping and splashing.
Lurching, convulsing, he falls to the floor.
Then blackness and silence.
Utter breakdown, total collapse.
Just like before, but this time the man who nursed him back to health is himself dead!
But help is at hand. Oh, my son, my poor broken son. 3 months in prison he lay, awaiting a verdict, and slowly regaining his strength. But the grand jury finally decided you are innocent, Victor, as they have proclaimed it. You are innocent.
Innocent, if they knew.
They proved that you are on Scottish Island, and when the hands of a murderer closed on poor Henry, not your hands.
Not my hands?
And now I will take you home.
Home?
Now old lives to start again.
Our old lives are gone, Father. Gone when William died, and when Justine, innocent Justine, died without crime. I am the cause of this. I murdered her and William. And any hope of our old life returning.
But dearest Victor, what manners is this, I beg you, never use words again. We'll go home, and our family will be together again, and we will have a marriage to celebrate.
I will be with you on your wedding night.
I do. Be happy
night, you must retire to our bed long before me, and I'll join you when my work is done. Then, and for the rest of our lives, we'll face everything together in peace.
For a feminist novel, there's lots of men talking all the time.
And you don't think that's the experience of a lot of women, a lot of the time, just hearing men talk?
And for a feminist novel, a decent chunk of the people who die are women.
You're making my point for me?
What?
They die because of a poor choice made by a man.
And at the hands of one man.
Or because of the other man.
You can't see what makes a feminist novel, then you're...
What?
Never mind.
But it can't be a feminist novel, because the word feminist didn't exist back then.
Is that your best argument?
It's a good point.
So, do you think when early man was wandering the wide open plains and a big animal approaches, did he think, well, I won't run because the word saber-toothed tiger don't exist yet?
That's a good point too.
The scream! The scream which seals the fate of Elizabeth, of Victor, of the creature!
Even Victor's father dies of a broken heart.
It's not just a scream, but a starting pistol for a chase!
A race with no winners!
On the sacred earth on which I kneel, I swear to pursue the demon who has caused me this misery, until either he or I shall perish in mortal conflict. I call on you, spirits of the dead, and on you, wandering ministers of vengeance, to aid and conduct me in my work. Let the cursed and hellish monster drink deep of agony. Let him feel the despair that now torments me!
I am satisfied, miserable wretch. You have determined to live, and I am satisfied.
River after river, town and village, mountain and sea, always a clue.
My reign's not yet over.
Carved into a rock!
My power is complete.
Into the bark of a tree.
Follow me. I see the everlasting ice of the north, where you will feel the misery of a cold and a frost. Come on, my enemy. We have yet to rest for our lives, but many hard and miserable hours you must endure until that period will arrive.
The everlasting ices of the north.
Prepare, wrap yourself in the furs, and provide food, for we shall soon enter upon a journey where your sufferings will satisfy my everlasting hatred.
And finally into the sight of ice-encased Captain Walton.
We perceived a low carriage fixed on a sledge and drawn by dogs pass on towards the north at the distance of half a mile. A being which had the shape of a man, but apparently of gigantic stature, sat in the sledge and guided the dogs. We watched the rapid progress of the traveller with our telescopes until he was lost among the ice.
And the next morning,
a sledge like that we had seen before, which had drifted towards us in the night on a large fragment of ice. Only one dog remained alive, but there was a human being within it, whom the sailors were persuading board our vessel.
It's all well and good reading these old books, but I want something which tells us about life today, and what we're experiencing in the here and now.
And I don't think this does.
It's so fascinating, and it's full of these crazy coincidences.
But in all those things, what is the heart of it? What is she trying to say?
But my question is, what is she trying to say that is worth thinking about in the modern world?
Are you really asking that?
I'm really asking that.
So, my take on it is that she is asking, should the natural world be tampered with for our own advantage or vanity?
Is nature something which should be respected and worked with rather than against?
Is it possible that if you play pass and lose with the forces of nature, that you just might open a door for those same forces to bite you in the...
What are you saying?
Imagine if the beast which is created isn't this huge creature, but something else.
Like
plastic. We created it, and now we throw it away, and it ends up in rubbish heaps in our sea. It destroys our environment, and even in our food chains, in our stomachs, and even in our bloodstreams.
Or what about our man-made gases from our cars, planes, and factories? They are damaging our climate and our health. They are monsters that we created. But nature will have the last laugh.
How?
Well, what if the monster unleashed is something tiny, like a virus? You know, the HIV virus jumped species when humans were trafficking bushmeat in Africa.
And the coronavirus is spread so fast because of that market in China.
And neither of these places feel like they were treating the natural world with the care it deserves.
Stop looking at Victor as a man and think of him as man. It changes a lot of things.
Shelley was never really writing about this man called Frankenstein. She was writing about us.
All of us.
Victor's final resting place is bounded by ice, and on his deathbed he had not time to tell his tale and give little advice he has.
Farewell, Walter. Sea captainess in tranquility. Even if it be only apparently one of distinguishing yourself in science and discovery. Yet, why do I say this? I have myself been blasted in these hopes, yet others may succeed.
He pressed my hand feebly, and his eyes closed forever, while a gentle smile passed away from his lips.
But there is one final visit.
Here is my last victim in his dead. My crimes are concluded. The misery of my life winds to its close. Oh, Frankenstein, what does it matter now if I ask you to pardon me? I who destroyed you, I destroy all you Lord. He is cold. He cannot answer.
Your repentance means nothing now. If you had listened to the voice of conscience before now, Frankenstein would yet have lived.
Do you think that I was then dared to regret a ferocious selfishness hurried me on, while my heart was poisoned with remorse? Do you think that the groans, travail, the boy, the girl, the woman were music to my ears? I was the slave, not the master. When impulse I detested, yet could not disobey.
Wretch! You come here to whine over the desolation that you have made! You throw a flame into a home, and when it is burnt, you sit among the ruins and weep!
I am a wretch. I have murdered the innocent as they slept. Where can I find rest but in death? Soon these burning miseries will be extinct. I will ascend my funeral pile in triumph and rejoice the agony of the torturing flames. The light of that fire will fade away. My ashes will be swept away into the sea by the winds. My spirit will sleep in peace.
When he was about 15 years old, he witnessed a most violent and terrible thunderstorm.
It came from behind the mountain, and the thunder burst at once, with dreadful power from various parts of the heavens.
He remained while the storm lasted, watching it with curiosity and delight.
As he stood, he saw a stream of fire issue from an old and beautiful oak, which stood 20 yards from our house.
When the dazzling lights vanished, the oak had disappeared, and nothing remained but a blasted stump.
When they visited the next morning, they found the tree shattered in a remarkable manner. It was not splintered by the shock, but tiny weeds used to thin ribbon.